Are you better financial shape than you were a year ago? If not, then you're clearly going somewhere to work. Many people think that you need to be lucky to be financially free, although there is some truth to it. But most people who have access to the internet are already lucky enough. The only problem that they have in that they are the bad with money. The moment they received that paycheck, they make sure to spend every dime by the end of the month. As a wise man once said, it's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits. If you are 20 years old and put aside just 10% of every day for your retirement, you will end up in the $1.7 million when you are hit 60s. Imagine if you increase that number to $20 or $30 a day, you can hit that number way faster than you imagine. But to do that, you probably have to get right from some of your spending habits. Just by eliminate your day with Starbucks coffee or the eating less out. You probably can't do that. Of course, there's the millions of the ways how people waste their money, but we are going to take a look at some of the controversial ones. In this video, you are going to learn why buying a $20,000 Rolex, which is cheaper than the $200 watch. How can you use the car to become a millionaire, and why you will never get rich if you ever decided to buy a house. Buying a car, the most irresponsible financial decisions you can make. A car is no longer merely a tool to move from one place to another. It had turned into the status symbol. The more expensive your car is, the more money you probably make. But the truth is, a $25,000 Toyota can get a job done as good as the $2,100 Rolls Royce. But that's not the people's waste money when buying the car. You can buy the $30,000 car Toyota and waste more money than when you buy the $100,000 luxury car. When you buy the brand new car, the moment it leaves the dealerships, it automatically loses 10% of its value, even though it still is brand new within its first year. It loses 20 to 30% of its value. Within the next 3 to 4 years, it loses 40 to 50% of its value. So no matter what car you buy, as long as it's new, in the 3-4 years, it will lose half of its value. That is the single most horrible financial decisions you can ever make, because cars easily last 10, 15 or 20 years and there isn't much innovation in this industry every single year. A 3 or 4 year old car is not going to be different from the rest of the cars in the streets, but will save a fortune. The average price a brand new car in the US is $36,000. And Americans are average change their car every 6 to 8 years. If you buy a used car every 6 years instead of the new one and invest the rest of the money, let's say to the S&P 500, you can end up with almost $1.5 million by the time you retire. And that's if you buy the car with cash upfront every time. But if you take the loan to purchase a car every 6 years, where interest rates range from 4 to 20, your opportunity cost would much higher, which means you are getting up millions of the dollars just to have that car. Next time before you buy a car, ask yourself, are you ready to give up millions of dollars just to have this BMW? Number 2, don't buy a house. A lot of people would say buying a house is one of the greatest decisions you will ever make. Unfortunately, that is not always true. If you are not going to live in that house for at least 10 years, then you should not buy a house because you will end up wasting a fortune. Now, before you throw at me your angry comments, hear me out. When you buy a house, it's not just about the price tax. You have to pay taxes, interest, inspections, appeals, fee, relations, and so on. The closing cost is really high. So if you are not going to live there for at least 10 years, you end up paying much more than if you rent. And on top of that, when you take the mortgage in the first 5 or even 10 years, you usually pay the interest and then gradually move to pay the principal. So if you take the mortgage and just live there for 5 years, you will be paying interest to the bank for the loaning you that money instead of the paying rent. Mortgage only makes sense if you invested to own that property for 20 or 30 years. But yet, in this radically changing economy we live in, it doesn't make sense to tie yourself to one place. That's why so many people who take a mortgage decided to sell that property in the less than a decade and ended up paying the fortune in the closing costs. Just imagine if you have invested that money instead of the mutual funds, and for example, you could have be ended with the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Number three, the sunk cost fallacy confused. Me too when I heard about it for the first time. Since you have watched this video, you are now financially educated, and I assume you are going to borrow money to buy the brand new BMW because that is the financially irresponsible. But let's say you have already borrowed money to buy your already dream car, but you don't use it much because you work from home and only needs to ride once or twice a week, but you still have to make monthly payments. The relation decisions would be to sell that car and pay off your debts since you don't really need the car. But since you have already paid a portion of that car, you don't want to previous investments to go to the waste. So you keep the car. It's like when you purchase the ticket to the movie, but then find out that the movie is boring, you still keep watching it because you don't want your money to be wasted, and that is known as the sunk cost fallacy. Desire not to see your past investments to go to waste, but you have already purchased the tickets. You cannot recover that. Now you should decide what is the best outcome for your future and not what outcome will justify your previous spending, because that investment is gone. It's sunk. Or take another example, some people remain in the following relationships because they have already invested too much to leave, although the logical things would be to leave. Fourth, cheap watches. Most of the people buying a $20,000 Rolex watch a waste of the money because $2,000 watch can get the job done as good as the Rolex watch. But the reality is, when you buy the regular watch, it might last you a year or two, and then you will throw it away and get the new one, or just stop wearing the watch like me. On the other hand, when it comes to the luxury brands like Rolex or Patek Philippe, their companies make sure that there is the limited number of their products in the market, which keeps driving the price higher over time. In fact, if they end up with unsold inventory, they will destroy it to keep the status quo. So if you buy the Rolex watch where only limited numbers of them were ever made, the value of your watch will only grow as time goes by. You will be able to sell for the same amount you bought it for, if not higher. Whereas if your $30 watch, you will throw it away once you get bored of it because there is no other use to it. Fifth, impulse buys. Often do you often find yourself buying things you didn't plan to buy? You went to get yourself the pair of the shoes, but you ended up buying the new T-shirt, the new pair of the jeans, and whatever else was there on sales. But when impulsive buying turns into the habits, you are financially insecure because no matter how much money you make, you will waste it on the stuff you don't need. Some people ended up wasting fortunes on the expensive things, much as cars or phones, and the questions to themselves the few days later: why on earth did I buy this? If there is something you feel excited to buy, especially if it is something expensive, sleep on it, give yourself at least a day or two to think about it. Once you calm down, then you should decide whether you should buy it or not. That brand new iPhone or BMW will always be there in the store, and if someone else buys it, there will be more. As long as there is the demand, there will be the supply. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you are the new around here, then subscribe and turn on your notifications. We are trying our best to make the great videos for you and hopefully help you achieve your financial goals. Thanks for watching, and until next time.